Hey, Queens, and welcome back to the Lashes and Sashes podcast. I'm Elizabeth Tran, and I am so excited because I'm bringing in our first guest at Lashes and Sashes. I consider her to be my pageant bestie, and I met her at my very first international pageant. She is former Miss Universe Sweden and now the owner of Bluma Co. California, Frida Fornander Garcia.
Hi, Elizabeth.
Hello, how are you?
I'm doing so well. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course, I mean, it's been how many years have we known each other? Because it was my 21st birthday when I met you, and now I'm 29, so it's been 8 years.
Yeah, almost 10, because I remember we met at the end of 2015, so it's almost been 10 years. Can you believe it?
No, I really can't because I feel like well, actually, no, once we go through your life, maybe I can feel like it's 10 years because I've seen the different chapters and stages
Yeah.
of your life, even just being a part of it on an international scale. But going back, I first want to start off with how you even got started in pageants. What got you interested in it?
Yeah, it's kind of a crazy story because in Sweden, pageants are not huge anymore. They used to be huge back in the 80s and 90s. But
Mm,
I was on YouTube and I came across a video of Miss Teen USA, and I was like, wow,
okay.
I was so fascinated by the glitz and the glam and being on stage. And I had recently just gotten into modeling, so it was just very intriguing to me. And I did some research and I found the Miss Teenager pageant in Guatemala, which is one of the
Okay.
biggest teen pageants out there. And I decided to apply. So I sent in my application, and just a few days later, I got an email saying, "We want you. We would love for you to represent Sweden and come to us in Guatemala."
Wow. So there was no teenage Sweden pageant, or do you know of any pageants in Sweden that are for young women or girls?
No, that did not exist back then, not until I later on introduced
Wow.
Swedish people to those. So I had to look it up later on. I know that's for the later part of the story, but I ended up becoming the director.
Whoa. Okay.
Yeah.
So you really left your legacy in Sweden, if anything, to bring more pageantry in.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I actually went there, and it took a lot of convincing for my
Mhm.
parents, because obviously Guatemala might not be the safest country for a young girl to visit. But
You're Sweden, like you might not even know where Guatemala is.
no, I was like, where is that? What's that country again? Guacamole? No, Guatemala. And I had never been abroad. Like, I had been to the Scandinavian countries, but I had
Okay.
never left Sweden before. I was only
Wow.
15. So
Okay.
that was like my big first international trip. So it was pretty crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I was
Yeah.
terrified at 21 going into my first international pageant. I can't imagine, like, the first
Yeah.
time leaving, like, my continent on the other side, not completely the other side of the world, but still as a
Yeah.
teen, as a 15-year-old, what gave you the courage to even go to this whole new country and decide to pursue pageants? Was it because of modeling?
I think I was just so excited. Like, I've always been a very adventurous soul. I've always been very curious about what life has to offer. And I think my intuition was telling me that pageants was something that I would really enjoy. And I just really wanted to try it out and see if I liked it. And I definitely did. I was hooked. I was like, God, I gotta keep
Wow.
doing this. This is so much fun. This is
Mhm.
amazing. You get to meet so many interesting people. You get to travel. You get to do charity. It was just so much fun.
How was your experience in Guatemala? And I mean, just your first time ever competing. Did you go on YouTube to look up how to even walk and talk? Did you talk to modeling coaches or your agency on how to get ready?
I wish I would have been a little more ready. Now looking back at it, I don't think I even had like a bottle of hairspray with me, like a can of hairspray. I don't think I was even.
Wow.
Yeah, I definitely had some pretty gowns. I had to go on gown shopping with my mom before, but
Okay.
I was definitely not that prepared. But somehow I just like it came very natural to me, all of it, and I learned so much along the way just watching some of the other contestants. And yeah, it it was such a growing experience too. I feel like it grew so
I
much
bet.
just that one week I was there. Yeah, and I actually ended up placing in the top 10.
Oh my gosh.
Believe it or not. Like I did not have any expectations of winning or even
Yeah.
placing, but yeah, making it to the top 10, I was like, wow, maybe this is something for me after all.
Absolutely. And in Sweden, is it really common to speak English around, or at least when you were modeling and stuff? And then when you went to the international pageant with everybody speaking different languages?
Yeah, so in Sweden, you definitely learn English pretty early in school.
Okay.
And my English was definitely not as good back then as it is now. Still not perfect, so apologies for that. But
Oh, please. You do not need to apologize. Your English is better than most Americans, okay?
thank you. Yeah, but it was definitely, I feel like pageants has taught me a lot of English and like has taught me to improve my English speaking skills. So yeah, it was fun to meet other people. And I remember Miss Denmark was there, but we even spoke English to each other because I
Oh.
cannot understand Danish whatsoever.
Okay. And then did you
So
learn Spanish too, since it was in Guatemala?
we spoke maybe a little Spanish, but honestly, not, yeah, it's not easy.
Got it. I guess the main language at Miss Teenager then was English?
Yeah, they did like a mix of English and Spanish. I think actually the final was held in
Oh.
Spanish because
Yeah,
the
that
whole
makes sense.
audience was basically Spanish speaking. So that's what
Wow.
made sense.
Okay.
Yeah, I was Miss Swiss, yeah.
And then did you compete there again the following year, or did you then move on to Miss pageants?
Yeah, so I was still pretty young and I got the opportunity to go back, and I also got the opportunity to be the director of all the Scandinavian countries. So I picked out Miss Finland, Miss Iceland, and Miss Norway. They were all
Wow.
friends of mine, or like I kind of got to know them along the way. And we all went there, and it was
Okay.
so much fun. It was such a girls' trip.
How fun.
And yeah, it was just fun for me to also give that opportunity to other young girls. And yeah, I just knew that that was kind of my purpose, to introduce other people to pageants as well.
So then was it weird competing with those girls as well, or were you also competing with them, or were you the director in the second year?
No, I actually went, like, yeah, they kind of, I guess they made an excuse and let me compete again. Uh, yeah.
And your friends were totally cool with it, and you guys were all just there to have a great
Yeah, honestly,
time?
that time I was like much more relaxed than the first because I kind of knew the ins and outs of what it was going to be like, the whole
Mm.
experience. And yeah, we kind of just had a lot of
Oh.
fun. And I won the title of Miss Teen Model Universe. So yeah, yeah, it was so much fun.
Oh my gosh, you're second year in and you already won, like, an international pageant title. That
Right?
blows my mind. I mean, given that I've competed for, like, 21 years, I'm like, "What? Are you serious?"
But Lord, you have so many trophies, so many crowns. When I saw all those in your house, I was like, wow,
Fair, fair.
this girl has so many.
It's a little different, and plus my mom and my sister, it all just kind of, snowballs, you know?
Yeah, I love that your whole family is just into it. So much fun.
Yeah. After Miss Teenager, when did you move on to other Miss pageants?
Yeah, so as soon as I turned 18, I entered Miss Gothenburg, which is the city that I'm from in Sweden, and I won that
Oh,
pageant. And
okay.
then that led me to Miss Universe Sweden. So I was the youngest contestant out of everyone. I had just turned 18, and I ended up placing first runner up. But I am very grateful that I did not
Wow.
win because I definitely don't think I was ready. Like being so young, I did not have enough experience,
Mhm.
whether it came to modeling, pageants, or just in life in general. So I
Okay.
am very
Yeah, yeah.
grateful that I did not win, but first runner up was great. And I did try the
Mhm.
year after to compete again for Miss Universe Sweden, and I ended up winning Miss Earth Sweden because usually they also announce a few other titles as well. So I ended up going to Miss Earth that next year.
Wow. I mean, 4 years in and you're already going to one of the big 4 pageants. And I mean, okay, first I wanted to ask with Miss Gothenburg, was that like a smaller city pageant? And then did everybody in Sweden have to compete in their city to then go to compete at Miss Universe Sweden?
Yeah, that's usually how they do it. They do a couple of finales in the different bigger cities around Sweden. So that's usually how it goes.
Okay, and then does anyone ever go at large or appointed? That's like when I was Miss Miami Beach USA going to Miss Florida USA, I just paid an entry fee. I didn't compete in Miami Beach.
Yeah, sometimes they can like pick out wild cards from online applications. So it's usually like a good mix of people who has been winning the regional title versus also wild cards.
How was your experience competing at Miss Earth? I mean, that's a big four pageant.
Yeah, that was actually also crazy because I was still very young. Like I was only 18. Um, and that was a very intense pageant, let me tell you. It was almost a whole month. I don't think we slept more than 3 hours a night.
One
And
month, 3
yeah,
hours of sleep every night?
yeah, I actually got insanely sick because of all the lack of sleep. It was definitely like a boot camp.
Oh my
It was
gosh.
very hard.
Mhm.
But it was definitely an experience, and I got to see some beautiful parts of the Philippines. The people there are absolutely amazing. The girls I was competing with were also amazing, most of them. So I am grateful that I got to go on that opportunity as well.
Yeah, and did you between Teenager and Earth, did you compete in other international pageants in between?
No, that was actually my first international like Miss pageant.
So then after Miss Earth, is that when you started competing in other international pageants? Because I feel like you've competed in 20 international pageants, but maybe I'm wrong. Like
Yeah, it hasn't been 20, but it has been a lot. I almost forgot the name of most of them, but I started competing in a lot of international pageants after Miss Earth, like smaller ones, not the big four.
mhm.
And my main goal was obviously always Miss Universe, as you know, but I kind of also wanted to go to all these smaller international pageants just to gain um, more, more experience. Because
Absolutely,
I
and
feel like you really need a lot of experience to do well
mhm.
at Miss Universe. So yeah, the second international pageant, Miss pageant that I went to, Miss Planet, I placed first runner-up in, and that was also a great pageant in Georgia, not like the country, not the states.
The country Georgia, not the state. We have to clarify here.
And then Miss Trinity Queen, and that's where I met you.
Oh my god. That's the perfect segue into how we met because, I mean, I know for me, and I would think the same for you too, but it was like maybe 5 minutes in at the airport meeting. Definitely wanted you to be my roommate. I thought we were gonna be best friends. Because I was so scared. I didn't know what to expect in an international pageant. I brought my mom with me, and that's what I mean, like, I was 21, I only did US
Yeah.
pageants, and I didn't know any information. I got my airport ticket 2 days beforehand and was like,
Oh, I didn't know that.
yeah,
That's
I was
crazy.
so
Yeah.
confused. I'm like, "Is this actually happening?" I was running, like,
Yeah.
a dance charity event at my college and, like, trying to balance that with this pageant and Thanksgiving and getting ready
Yeah.
for midterms, and I wasn't sure if I should tell my professors that I was gonna leave to go to Taiwan because I didn't even know if it was happening. And
Yeah.
then when I met you, I was like, "Okay, we've got like a normal, cool girl who's familiar with the USA and knows Andrea New, like, because she was Miss Earth United States when I competed at Miss Earth United
Yeah.
States." So I instantly felt
Mhm.
better when I met you. I don't know if you had anything to add to that.
Good. Oh, yeah. I remember just seeing you at the airport, and I saw your mom too. I thought it was really cute, by the way, that you brought your mom. Like,
Mhm.
it felt really good to have her around as well, knowing that she's also very familiar with Asia and everything.
Exactly, and she spoke Mandarin, yep.
Exactly. So that was very helpful. And yeah, I just remember we clicked instantly, and I was like, wow, I really hope I can room with her. But normally they they decide your roommates based on like neighbor countries. So I just assumed I would room with maybe Denmark or
Yeah,
something.
yeah.
But somehow we got to room anyway.
Mhm, mhm,
Yeah.
and
So I was just so happy.
I have to add, you really are, to me, the queen of manifestation, and I think I
Thanks.
first learned that through, like, "Oh, I hope she's my roommate," and then all of
Yeah.
a sudden, you're my roommate, and I guess maybe you had the same feeling I did, and then we both
Oh
had
yeah.
that, but I think the most crazy thing and full circle moment is the first night we were in the hotel and you told
Hmm.
me everything you wanted in your life that
Yeah.
hi, again, goosebumps, and it came true.
Yeah, it's so surreal to think about it. It's also so sweet that we were both like we were so jet lagged and we just wanted to get to know each other. So we probably stayed up until like
Yes.
4 a.m. talking. I
Mhm,
think,
mhm.
but it was so much fun, and I remember we really opened up about our life goals, and we were still so young back then. I think I was
Yeah.
19 or something, and you were, or maybe I was
Wow.
20 and you were 21. Yeah. Or you actually, you
Yes,
turned
yes.
21
Or
that.
I turned
Yeah,
21, like, literally the 2nd day or the 3rd day after that, yeah.
exactly. I remember us celebrating. But
Yeah,
yeah, I'm just so grateful that we got to be roommates. And I mean, it was a couple of weeks, so we definitely got to know each other so well during that pageant.
mhm,
And yeah, that was just
mhm.
the beginning of our wonderful friendship.
Yeah, and I mean,
Yeah.
okay, like, the first thing like, even to the detail, I still can't get over it. It was like, you wanted to be Miss Universe Sweden in the US, and specifically either Los Angeles or Las Vegas, and then you wanted to move to California, and you wanted to
Yeah.
move to the US, and, I don't know if business was there yet, but it was modeling in the USA, and I know it's hard because my mom also is an immigrant who came from
Yes.
Hong Kong, going through that process, which, as you know, is not
Hmm.
easy. And so
It's definitely.
to have all those big dreams at 19, to me, I was like, wow, she's really ambitious. And honestly,
Yeah.
I didn't know if it was going to come true or not because I'm not the
No.
manifesting type of person. And
Yeah.
it all happened to a T. And again, like at that time with
It
Miss
did.
Universe, it was switching back and forth between Asia, US, Asia, US. So you didn't know, and you didn't know when you were going to win, and you
Hmm.
didn't know what to expect. And so it was my mind. And then I guess I should jump on this part later, but like I was even telling Scott, my boyfriend, about how when we were in Miami, you would bring up Katsuya Brussels sprouts,
Hmm.
and then 3 hours later, it was right in front of us.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, or like Malibu Farm, and then it just happened to be in South Beach.
In Miami.
Mhm, and then the building that we saw past the balcony was like the matching building. It was so crazy how
Yeah.
everything you spoke about or wanted came to existence.
Yeah.
So, I mean, have you always been this way? Like, what did you do? Did you read The Secret? Like, how did you do that?
I definitely read The Secret, but I also think a lot of it comes like naturally to me. I am a very ambitious, driven person and I have a lot of goals. I still do, even though I fulfilled most of the ones I had when I
Mhm,
was 20. Um, but it still blows my mind too that I actually was able to manifest all this. And especially because I don't think a lot of people really believe that I could.
mhm.
Like, even family were like, yeah, yeah, like, let's be modest here.
And as much as I love you and I think you're
Yeah.
amazing, I didn't know if I could believe in
No, I
you
get it.
either, and not because I don't believe you can do it, but because that's so
Yeah.
hard. I mean, again, I look at me who's competed at Miss Florida USA for 4 years, and I can't even scratch the surface of top 5. So, like, to be Miss Universe Sweden,
Yeah. I mean, that is an insanely competitive path.
and so is Miss Universe Sweden, though, but that's what I mean, like, it is so hard to reach these huge goals, especially in the pageant world. I mean, there's not a lot of people that can say they've competed in both Miss Earth and Miss Universe and has placed first runner-up in all these international pageants.
Yeah. No, it is insane to me. And I am so grateful that all my dreams came true because I definitely also did work hard. I think a lot of people were like, oh, she just got lucky, but I worked insanely hard behind the scenes. And as we talked about earlier, off cam, I was working with the Miss Universe organization before I even won Miss Sweden. I was their MC and I was hosting their tours for a couple of years. So that was also a lot of work. Like, I was kind of climbing the ladder to eventually, be able to become Miss Universe Sweden. So it hasn't been an easy journey. And I am super grateful for everyone who also helped me to get here to the US. And yeah, it's been a long road, but I'm so grateful that it all happened.
Mhm, and I'm just grateful I could watch it. I mean, going back to Taiwan, I have to ask because for me, it was probably one of the craziest, like, international pageants I've done now.
Yeah.
What memory stands out to you the most?
Well, when you asked me that question, I just instantly thought of our dance teacher. One, two, three, four.
And then I had to explain to my sister, if you didn't dance well
Yeah,
enough or give it enough personality, he would come, like, put his hand, like, 3 inches away from your face and go,
I know.
"Pow, pow,"
It's
because he didn't speak English.
and somehow I ended up being like in the front row of all the dances. Normally they put me way in the back because I'm not a good dancer.
You can dance because of your height.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But I don't know. No, usually it's because I don't have the moves. But let's say it's my height. Let's just say it. What do you have memories from?
I I think it will always stay in my head, we were in the middle of a rehearsal, and one of the staff members came out and was like, "Okay, everybody, it's time for your interview. We're ending rehearsal.
Oh,
You can wear a
oh.
bikini, you can wear an evening gown, but no makeup on." And we, like, ran
We were
from
like,
the
what?
place into, like, our model apartment villa and, like, wiped our faces off, and then we all were, like, so shamefully eating dinner together, like, "Ugh, this sucks." Like,
Did anyone wear their swimsuit for the interview?
no, but someone did wear an
Yeah.
evening gown. I do remember
Oh
that. I
yeah.
was like,
Yeah.
I was not prepared.
I don't even remember what I
I
wore. Yeah, but you won
Yes,
best interview, so you
I
did
I did
something
something.
right.
Oh, and then I
Yeah.
had a picture I thought was funny, that I saw on one of our albums. The dress that I wore, I couldn't iron it because I think I didn't have the plug or something, so I used, like, the air dryer in the bathroom, and I'm like, "I can't unwrinkle this," and they're doing the rehearsal, they're having like, it was just so chaotic. I'm like, "Is this real?"
That yeah, and I remember I think they gave us some money to just go eat in the mall,
Oh, I
and
love
that
that.
mall was huge, and I
Yes,
lost, and they hated when we ran late, so
yes.
I was so afraid of running late. I was, like,
Mhm,
panicking.
mhm,
Yeah,
mhm.
but it was fun. It was a really fun pageant.
Oh, man. Yeah, I think those things it's
Yeah,
comical. Like, honestly, the extra because that mall was like I mean, this is an American reference, so have you been to a football field?
not an American one, no.
Okay. So I guess, yeah, maybe like a soccer stadium. It's
Yeah, it's probably the
I
same.
felt like the malls were 2 soccer stadiums and then some. I'm like,
Seriously.
"This is ridiculous," and we're
Yeah,
storming out in our heels. Oh, and the model villa. I think that's the best not model apartment, but, like, that
yeah,
is the best pageant housing I have ever stayed in
I
terms
know.
of an international pageant.
That was
I can't get
insane.
over the Chanel pillow lobby, like,
Were those pillows real, you think?
I don't know, but they looked real enough for
They
me to
did. Yeah.
call it legit.
Yeah, it felt so we even had our own elevator.
Yes,
Yeah,
and
it's
there was
crazy.
only 4 girls in our apartment, and it was a 4-floor apartment. So, basically, each one of us had our own floor. It was amazing.
I know, that was, like, the first time I did not spend like, I wasn't in the same room as you, and I was like, I miss
Yeah.
her. This is still nice."
And I can just come downstairs and ask what you're doing. I remember
Exactly.
you had, like, a
Yeah.
really old laptop that you was driving you crazy.
I think I still have it, Elizabeth. I still haven't bought a new one.
Really? After all these years, do you still use that lap
Yeah. It's driving me crazy I don't know why I just don't go and buy a new one. I just don't maybe that's what I should just manifest a new computer.
Yes, manifest a new computer, and I think it's a worthwhile business expense the very least. And actually, this brings up another point. When we were in the bus or we were going somewhere, you
Yeah.
wanted to listen to your podcasts. And I
That's right.
didn't know what podcasts were at the time. I mean, I heard the
Yeah.
word, but you were just kind of like, oh, okay. Like, I like to, focus on my stuff, listen to my podcasts when I'm in the bus, tune everything out. And so
Yeah.
now I mean, I would say like 5 years later, I became obsessed with podcasts and now I'm
Uh-huh.
like putting one together. So in a way, I have to thank you because you introduced me to this whole world of
Yeah, I
podcasting.
feel like usually America is like way ahead with most things, but when it comes to podcasts, Sweden was kind of first, I think. Like 10 years ago, it was huge. And I remember being obsessed. Like, I'm still just as obsessed with podcasts, and I still listen to a lot of the same podcast that's been going on for 10 years. So, yeah, I just love
Wow.
podcasts, and I'm so happy that I finally have a new one to listen to, which is yours.
Aw,
Yeah.
thanks. But I mean, I do think there's certain aspects of Swedish culture that is innovative
Mhm.
and renovating like American culture in a way, whether it's like electronic music or IKEA.
Yeah.
Sweden Yeah, the US and Sweden are ahead in different ways for sure. But no, I love it now.
Yeah, yeah, I definitely think so too.
And so those podcasts that you listen to, they were all Swedish speakers then?
Yes, definitely. I remember I was listening to a pageant podcast that was English or American. I just don't remember the
Oh,
name. That was like the only American podcast, and the rest were just Swedish. So, yeah, I just love, like, even when I'm working
I
now, I
believe
just
it.
love listening to them. And yeah,
Same. Yeah, washing dishes, anything, folding clothes, I'm like
yeah,
podcasts in the background for sure.
yeah, I don't even listen to music anymore. It's just all
Mhm.
podcasts.
Same. I only listen to
Yeah,
music in the shower basically, just to, like, get my head but in the car and
yeah,
stuff, I prefer listening to it. But,
yeah.
okay. So after Thailand, when did you decide it was time for you to go back to Miss Universe Sweden in full force?
Well, I kind of wanted to do it already in 2016, but something told me wait and just do it in 2017 because I had other pageants in 2016, so I was still pretty busy.
Really?
And 2017, I was like, this is my year. I'm still pretty young. Like I was only 21 at the time, but I just had this feeling that it was just gonna be my turn to win. And I went to Miss Gothenburg again, won that pageant again, and then went on to Miss Universe Sweden the month after. And I just knew, like when I saw
Mhm.
the crown, I saw the crown backstage, and I was like, wow, this is
Wow.
mine. This is mine this time. And I was right. Yeah.
This brings me flashbacks. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but after the Taiwan pageant, because we're like, okay, now we have to be best friends. Now we have to go see each other and do fun things together. And we did like 1 week in Vegas to watch Miss USA and 1 week in Orlando to be with my family. And you had the Sweden sash on,
Yeah.
and a lot of the fans, we watched the Shauna Barber one, and some of the like Filipino fans saw you and they were like, "Oh my gosh, Miss Universe Sweden, Miss Universe Sweden." And you weren't even Miss Universe Sweden yet, but just like a few months later, here you go, like once again manifesting, and you knew then. It's just how do you know
Yeah.
these things? Like, is there like signs? Do you have like a voice telling you? Do you just see these opportunities and see them as signs?
That's a good question. I think I just like, I am a very intuitive person, and I think everyone can be. You just gotta be very like in tune with your mind and like what your kind of like what your future you tells you. So it's really hard to
Wow.
explain, but it's just like it just feels really right in my body.
You are the most intuitive person I know, except maybe I would say your husband might be the most, or you and him tie. Whichever the case is, but you both are very like in tune, and you know what you want and you know what
Yeah.
you're going after, and you can see after your goals. I just think it's so cool because to me it's like such a foreign concept. So, with your experience at Miss Universe Sweden, and I guess what I've told you about me competing in Florida, USA, what are the biggest differences in the Swedish pageant?
The biggest difference is the amount of money it costs to compete. In Sweden, it's just the first few years I was competing, I don't think it costed me anything except from like my own personal expenses. And then I think the year I actually won, I think maybe we just paid for the hotel, which was just a couple of $100s. So that's amazing that everyone, even if you don't have the finances, you can still go on and compete. And there are always dress sponsors there. So you don't even have to buy your own.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. You didn't even have to buy your gown. They already picked that for you. And when you competed at Miss Gothenburg, did you have to pay anything to
No,
compete there?
nothing. And that's just like a small little pageant, but you don't pay
Wow.
anything. But I think that also speaks for Sweden itself. Like a lot of things in Sweden are free, and now that I live in LA,
Mm.
I'm like, yeah, I'm like, gosh, it's so expensive here.
That's right, like college and healthcare.
Well, in Sweden, like, yeah, you really don't have to earn much to have a good life.
I remember, I think for Florida, USA, I took on like 2 or 3 different side jobs just to pay for the entry fees. And relatively speaking, sure, it sounds expensive compared to other US pageants, but those other US pageants didn't include the hotel and food accommodations. So, in retrospect, maybe it is about the same market. And then how was your reign as Miss Universe Sweden?
Well, I had 6 months to prepare, so I won in June, and during that
Mhm.
time, I started working out with a personal trainer to get, you know, my body fit. I started
Mhm.
designing because I was working closely with the designer, Gaspar Cruz. He made my
Yes.
evening gown, and then I had
Mhm.
another sponsor for my national costume. So it was a lot of work to,
Mm.
like get that vision to come together. And
Yeah.
I had 6 months to prepare, as I said. And during that time, I did not know where the pageant was going to be. So there were talks about Vegas, or I remember a lot
Mm.
of Asian countries. And
Yeah.
I was like, God, it has to be Vegas. Because I told you, I was like, I want it to be Las Vegas.
Mhm.
And the main reason, and I know it sounds ridiculous, but my hair cannot stand humidity. Like, it gets so fluffy. So I was like, if it's in Nevada, if it's in Nevada, my hair will be perfect. So it's great. Yeah.
But you're right, my hair in Vegas is gorgeous. No, that humidity is ridiculous. Um, okay, yeah, that makes perfect sense though, and it ended up being that way. Timing-wise, I think it's just so beautiful that, like, it could be on Fox, you could have Fergie be, like,
Yeah.
your hit singer. Oh my gosh, I still can't get
Crazy.
over when I saw your rehearsal, the first day I
Yeah.
was there, and then just hearing Fergie's voice. She wasn't performing, but you were walking in the number, and I'm
Yeah.
just, like, crying because I'm like, like,
Aw.
the dream just
Yeah.
came true. And I mean, for me, that was, like, my dream for a long time. So,
Aw.
it's like, if I couldn't win, I'd love seeing that someone
Yeah.
that is my best friend gets to pursue this dream as well, you know?
Yeah, that's so sweet of you. I truly appreciate that you flew all the way from Florida to come see me and to come support. And
Of
I just
course.
remember you, like it was really hard for people to come and just like hand you gifts. They had to go
Mhm.
through a lot of security checkpoints.
That's
But
right.
one day I had a little bag waiting in my
Mhm.
room, and it was a bag with green bananas and avocado, and it was from you.
Oh, that's right. Because I remember in Orlando, my whole family was like, "Why does she like green bananas?" And then, okay, if that's what she likes, like, I'm not gonna argue with
That
it.
is a Swedish thing. Like I don't even care that much for them anymore, but in Sweden, like I guess they import them from so far away, they're still very green. So everyone just eats their bananas green. But now that I had yellow ones, I'm like, yeah, that's better.
And then, oh gosh, what else was there? It was green bananas and then avocados.
And avocados. I always brought like, which was great because I
Mhm.
brought that for lunch, so I had that with like the food we would get. So yeah, that was so sweet of you.
Yes, and because you were naturally already so healthy, and I think you were already vegan or
Yeah,
flexitarian,
yeah.
vegetarian at the time, and I was eating a Chobani
Hmm.
yogurt for breakfast with, like, coconut, almond, chocolate, and I love those things. I
Yeah.
think they taste so good, and you were like, "Well, in Sweden, that's actually a dessert." My American, like, food culture was like, "No, it's not. This is delicious and nutritious. What are you talking about?"
I definitely feel like I've been living in how long have I been living in LA? Like 5 or 6 years now. And yeah, my eating habits and like way of looking at food has definitely changed. My portion sizes are way bigger now than they ever were before. So yeah, I get what you mean.
Yes, but your portions are like the portions at Whole Foods or
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
or Planta vegan, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you are still way healthier than, like, the healthier. But okay, so then how was your experience competing at Miss Universe?
Oh my gosh. It was so professional. The way they treated us was just so incredible.
Mhm.
We truly felt like queens. At least I did.
Aw.
And believe it or not, I feel like it's the most relaxing pageant I've been to. Usually
Really?
pageants can be very, very hectic, as you know, like you don't really get much sleep.
Mhm.
But we actually had some downtime to go to the gym and like really take care of ourselves. So that was
Oh.
amazing. And yeah, it was just, I just kind of wish I could do it all over again because it was such an incredible experience.
I mean, technically, you could be Miss California, USA now
Can
with
you
the
compete
rules and
again?
everything. Yeah, there's no age limit. You can be married, you can have babies.
Yeah,
It doesn't matter anymore.
that's
You
true.
could. I mean, regardless, again, I'm like, I'm glad your experience and your dream to even be Miss Universe Sweden and compete at Miss Universe was exactly how you wanted it, you know? Because it's just,
Yeah, it definitely did not disappoint. It was just so much fun, and yeah, it was just a
and it was
great
your
experience.
first time your parents went to the US, right?
It was. They flew in on Thanksgiving, and I remember we had that day off actually, so we got to remove our sashes. Normally, it was like super high security all around us, but they
Mm.
said you can remove our sashes, just be back at 7 or whatever,
Okay.
and just don't tell anyone you're in the Miss Universe pageant.
Mhm.
People were still asking on the streets, they're like,
Of
"Are you
course.
Miss Sweden?" I was like, no, no."
Wow. Who? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So my family flew in. I remember we went to Cheesecake Factory, so I had like a little cheat meal there, and it was so much fun that they came and they got to see you again and everything.
Yeah. Did I see
Yeah.
them? Did I meet them before Vegas? I feel like that was the first time I might have met them, no?
Oh, nice. Yeah, that was probably the first time, and then you met them like the year or two. Yeah, exactly. That's how it was. Yeah, yeah. But they love you. They're always like, "We love Elizabeth."
Aw, thanks. And I think context-wise for the podcast, even though we're talking about your pageant
Mm,
journey, every year, somehow, some way, we've always managed to reconnect or see each other, whether it was
yeah,
cheering you on at Miss Universe or the Orlando Vegas trip, or then when I studied abroad in
exactly.
Rome, going to
Yeah.
Sweden, like it's so great because now, especially that I'm older, it's been so much
Hmm.
harder for me to maintain
Yeah.
friendships, and I'm so grateful that I have been able to maintain that with you. And when we were younger, before you became this business owner mom baddie, that we had 2 weeks, to spend in Vegas and have our talks and even share an international pageant. Yeah. So it's now we can really treasure that. Mhm.
That's so true, and I feel like it's so much thanks to you because like you really go out of your way for your friends and like to really maintain that friendship and to see each other. And I really appreciate that because I just talked about that with my husband earlier. And I was like, it's so rare these days that people truly do
Yes.
that. So I really appreciate
Mhm.
it.
But it takes two to tango because I'm telling
Yeah.
you, I have tried, like, planning events and activities with friends here in Miami or
Mhm.
even other pageant people that maybe they're in Orlando, and I gotta say now, like, I set my expectation to, like, there's a 90% chance it's not gonna
Mhm.
happen, they're not gonna respond to me, it's not gonna, even be a thing, and especially as you get older, it gets a lot harder, so it's not
Yes.
anything personal, but it is something like I can only you can only say that about me because you also are willing to meet me halfway. So for that I'm grateful, and that is why you are my pageant bestie.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm super grateful. And like, that's one of the best parts about pageants, like the
Yeah.
people that you meet. And yeah, our friendship definitely just stands out
Mhm. Mhm.
I met a lot of my best friends through pageants, but I'm so grateful that
Mm.
I ended
Mhm.
up going to Taiwan, even though I technically didn't really feel like it at the time. I was going through like a rough patch. I had lost my grandma and stuff right before. So I wasn't sure if I was gonna go, but I'm like looking back at it, I'm just so glad I did because I don't know if we would have met otherwise.
Actually, you're right. I don't know if we would have either.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
think
I
it
mean, maybe, but
I don't know what random international pageant we could have connected in. I mean, it's
exactly.
possible. If it's meant to be, it will be, right? But I
That's true.
agree
Yeah.
that the timing and everything worked out. And I was adding to with your Miss Universe experience, that was the year Demi Lee Nell Peters won. And because she was
Yeah.
South Africa and you were Sweden, I guess you guys were like in the same group.
We were in the same group and we spent a lot of time together. I don't know if it had to do with actually like the letter of the country because my group also consisted of like what was it, Namibia, Portugal, Israel, Norway. So it was kind of like a random group, but it was the best group and we had the best supervisor, Moni, shout out. She was amazing. And I just loved all the girls in my group. We had so much fun.
Yeah, I thought it was cool because I remember, I think the moment I arrived, saw your like prelim rehearsal, and she was in line with you, and she was like, "Oh, um, Frida, this was the girl you were mentioning, right?" And I was like, "Oh, Miss South Africa even
Yeah,
knows who I am too. Shucks!" And she turns out to be Miss Universe. Wow, like,
exactly. Yeah, she was really, really sweet.
And then I thought it was so funny because I don't know if I brought up Tim Tebow to you then, like before she was married to him or dating him, or afterwards?
So I didn't know who he was before then,
I'm
because like
sure.
obviously I'm not into
Yeah.
any kind of
Football.
sports,
Yeah.
especially not American.
Yeah, or at least American football, that's
Yeah,
right, and because it's
yeah,
funny, being
yeah.
from Florida, and majority of my friends and family members went to the University of Florida, the legend, the
Ah,
champion, like, I had classmates in middle school with posters of him, like, so when I was like, "Oh my gosh," and you're like, "Who?"
oh wow,
Yeah, exactly, I thought that was
who's
so funny.
that?
Uh,
Yeah, yeah. I'm definitely more like you can tell me any pageant's name and I will know it, but when it comes to sports, I'm like I have no idea what you're talking about.
I only know sports, honestly, except for Tim Tebow, because of who different pageant girls are dating.
Oh yeah, yeah,
That's literally it. I'm like, "Oh, okay, she's with that guy. Oh, cool, cool, cool. Oh, you mean
yeah.
this girl's boyfriend. Okay." Um, and then after Miss Universe, then what what was next for you? What did you want to do after you competed and you gave up your Miss Universe Sweden title?
Yeah, so I did decide that that was going to be my last pageant. And, I'm not going to say it's forever, but probably. Because I wanted to really end my pageant career on such a high note. Like, Miss Universe was
Absolutely.
always the goal. So it just
Mhm.
didn't make any sense to go on and do like small pageants again after that. But
Agreed.
I was a little concerned that I was going to feel like really lost or almost depressed afterward because like pageants had been such a
Mhm.
big part of my life for so many years.
Mm. Yep.
Um, but then when I was still Miss Universe Sweden, a few months after I got home from Vegas, I got the opportunity to sign with a model agency here in LA. And those opportunities do not grow on trees, and especially like someone who's willing to help sponsor with a modeling visa.
Oh my
Yeah,
gosh, yeah, how did you get
yeah,
that?
it was through my dear friend Dasha, who was modeling here as
Mhm.
well. So I'm super grateful I got that
Mm.
opportunity and started
Yeah.
working on getting that visa. So that was definitely a time
Mhm.
consuming, stressful process. But a few months after I had given up my crown, I ended up getting it and I moved to LA and I've been there ever since. So
Oh my
yeah, it's
gosh.
crazy how sometimes you don't even have to work so much towards something. Like sometimes like the right opportunities will just come to you when you need it the most. And that's definitely what happened.
That's amazing, and I mean, again, because you're so good at the manifesting and the intuitiveness and the timing of things, and again, like you said, the first night we met in Taiwan, you wanted to move
Yeah.
specifically to Los Angeles. You wanted to specifically
Yeah.
move to the US because it's not easy getting a model visa. People go
No.
to random states that need, jobs that, and modeling is really tough too as an industry altogether,
Mhm.
let alone in Los Angeles. I mean,
It
how
is.
was it modeling in the US?
I have to say, like moving to LA was very. It was not really the way I thought it was gonna be. Like I've always, like I had been there a few times, and I was like, oh, I love the city. But when you move there by yourself, it's all of a sudden kind of scary and lonely. So my first few weeks, I would say I almost like had like little minor panic attacks because I was like, what
Okay.
am I doing with my life? I just moved so far away from my family and all my friends.
Mhm.
Um, but once I really started to get into it and like build
Yeah.
connections and start working, like it was great for me. It was definitely a little
Mhm.
different from modeling in Europe. I would almost say for me personally, it was easier here because of my height. Um, like in Sweden, a lot of people are tall, but here it's not as common to be 5'10". So that definitely helped a little bit. And yeah, I just got a lot of good opportunities and I was able to at least make a living here. So I was super grateful for that.
Even people in the States, and I mean, even me that is trying to pursue modeling now, and it's not easy, and it's definitely not easy to make a living off of it, especially in major cities where the rent is so high and the expenses are high, like Los Angeles.
Yeah, I definitely did have roommates in the beginning because otherwise it would not have been doable. Rent here is insane. Um, but then it really started to go pretty well. And then a few months after I had moved, I ended up meeting my husband, who was also my downstairs neighbor at the time. So after that, LA finally really started to feel more like home. And
Mm.
yeah, that was just so nice.
Told you this before this
Yeah.
conversation, but you and him are so aligned. But it's crazy how you're both born in like completely different cities, countries, whatever, but you're both so similar. And I'm like, I don't know where else you would find somebody equally as compatible
Yeah.
and in tune and intuitive
Hmm.
and in line as him. Like it's just, and he was downstairs the whole time. Like,
I know. I didn't even know people like him existed. Like I definitely believe that he is my soulmate.
I agree.
And it's so funny because we've done so many like personality tests you can
Yes.
do online.
Mm-hmm.
We always end up like we don't even watch each other do it. We end up getting the same. Isn't that crazy?
Yes.
And it's usually one of the more rare personality types too. So
Yes.
it's really funny.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because you both have a
Yeah.
very unique personality. You have a unique approach to going about with life, and I think again
Mhm.
it's just incredible of all places, cuz Los Angeles is not the place for dating for the most part from what I've been told.
No, no, we talked about that. I was like, I don't think most people meet their soulmate in
No.
LA. Like, I think most people return to where
Yep.
they come from to meet
Mhm.
that person. But I think we both were really drawn to come here to that, like, this specific part of LA. And just, yeah, it
It's
was just meant to
amazing.
be.
And so then when did
Yeah.
you transition over from modeling into the Bluma?
Yeah. So I was modeling here in LA for 3 years. And then we got married. And I just felt like I'm ready to try something new. Like, I'm a
Mhm.
little over modeling. Like, I've done this for, I think it was
Yeah.
12 years at the time. Not full time, but
Mhm.
mostly full time. And I was like, I just want to do something else. And I've always had it in the back of my mind. Like, I want to
Mhm.
have a business. Like, I don't know necessarily in what field or anything like that.
Mhm.
I just want to do something. And when we got married, I created some of my florals for the wedding. And I just found this new passion for flowers. So I kind of convinced my husband, like, can we just try this out and like start selling on Etsy? We don't really have anything to lose. We'll just see how it goes.
Mhm. Did you sell the arrangements you originally made from your wedding, or did you make new ones and then start out this business?
Yeah, so I didn't sell them, but I posted them on Facebook, and I remember a lot of people were like, "Oh my god, I love those. Where can I get them?" So I was like, "Oh, maybe there's a demand for these flowers." Um, and then I kind of rearranged them because it was made with pampas grass. I rearranged them in different kinds of arrangements, and I posted them all on Etsy. And yeah, after that, it went really fast, and people were just buying. So that's another thing that I guess I manifested, that it went well, because I was a little nerve wracked. I'm just like really grateful that I ended up like going for it and just seeing if it worked, and it did. And yeah, we're still running Bluma together. We're both partners, and it's going really well.
Wow. And I mean, see, that's the one thing I didn't know about your future plans and manifesting goals
Yeah,
of sorts. So I remember when you said that you were going to like start to move away from modeling, I was honestly a bit like, oh, where are you going? What's going to happen? Oh
yeah,
my gosh, because that's all I
yeah.
knew that you did. And again, like you said, you
Hmm.
already reached so many incredible goals that you set yourself out to do, that there was this kind of like, oh, what is next? Oh, like you're
Yeah,
here, you're in the US, you're living that American dream. If it's not modeling, and then this happens. And by the way, I just have to add, like, I think your wedding really was one of like the smartest, most strategic things. If you don't mind me
yes,
mention it in the podcast,
yeah,
to
yeah.
get Airbnb in Malibu, because you could stay there for 3 nights. And sure, you didn't have a lot of guests, but you had the most gorgeous
Hmm.
wedding for like a few $1,000s, like in comparison. Whereas I
Thank
hear
you.
the average budget in Miami for a
Yeah.
regular wedding in a venue not as beautiful with not as beautiful photos is $20,000 average.
It's crazy how much people spend on weddings, and honestly, like, we didn't really do it to budget. It was just COVID, and we wanted to get married. So we were
Oh.
like, we'll see how we can make this still like beautiful and special for our families. And I found this amazing Airbnb, and I messaged them because obviously I don't know if they're okay with us having a wedding there, but they were totally supportive. and it was the most beautiful house. And I think I told you one of the members of Backstreet Boys used to own that house. So we
Wow.
basically got married in his house. But yeah,
Oh my gosh.
yeah,
That's so cool. And again, it was like those photos and videos, you could have told me it was one of those like $1 million dream princess weddings between your
oh,
arrangements and the place and the scenery and the mountains. Like it was like I was in awe. I'm like, this needs to be hiring wedding planners need to like learn from you because it's so cool how you did it.
yeah. Thank you. No, that's definitely something I can recommend if you don't want to have like a super big wedding. If you're okay with like just closest people, get an Airbnb and just do it there.
Yeah, or even if you can get a big Airbnb and fit a bunch of people in there and you don't have to pay for
Yeah,
parking and all that stuff. I was like, wow,
exactly.
like who thinks of these things? It's so genius. Like, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. Sorry. Now I'm getting in a bit of a tangent. So then going into Bluma and you and Michael building that together, how has that been for you now, especially as you've become a mom?
yeah. Honestly, I'm so grateful I did start Bluma, or we did start Bluma back then, because seeing like how people have to go back to work like 6 weeks postpartum, like my heart could never do that. Like I could never just leave my son with even, a family member. Like I don't know, I wouldn't feel
Yeah.
comfortable with that. So I'm just so grateful to be able to work from home, because I don't know if I mentioned, but we still work from home. We ship out all of our
Mhm.
arrangements. They're dried, so we can just ship them out all over the
Ah,
US. So
wow.
yeah, I'm just grateful that I built that up before becoming a mom, because now I haven't had to transition to go to a corporate job or anything like that, because
Yeah.
that would just be too hard for me right now.
Mhm,
Yeah.
mhm. And I mean, how is it being a mom? Like, I have to know now, like, gosh, my family was
Yeah.
so shocked. They're like, "Frida's a mom? Frida's a mom?" You know?
Isn't it crazy? Yeah. Like he turned 7 months the other day, and it just
Oh.
time just flies by so insanely fast when you're a mom.
Mhm.
And just it's like it's the most beautiful and heartbreaking experience at the same time, because you want this tiny little human to always be tiny, but you see him grow and it's so beautiful, but you're still like, oh, I wish you were still my little baby.
Yeah, you miss when they were a baby and
Yeah,
all the precious moments.
exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can't wait for you to meet him in just a few days. So yeah,
Yeah!
and now it's way more fun to hang out with, because now he will actually like smile and stick out his tongue and blow raspberries and all that stuff. So
Oh, that's so
yeah,
sweet.
but
Oh
yeah, it's
my
wonderful.
god.
Yeah.
It's just so crazy. Again, I think about, like, 20-something-year-old us trying to, like, find something fun to do in Vegas or, like, photoshopping rocks red so it looks like the Grand Canyon. We go from that, and now you're a business owner and a mom
Yeah.
to watch your journey, and that's why I'm so glad to have you as, like, the first guest because I think you are such a testament of, like, where pageants can take you and, like, again and I honestly don't think with pageants like, even if you didn't compete in pageants, you still would have found your way into your dreams, but it took you there in a more glamorous and fabulous way,
Yeah.
if anything.
I
Yeah.
honestly think, like, I don't think I would be the same person even if I didn't go on my first pageant. And I definitely really believe that they led me to this very moment that I'm at. So yeah, I'm forever grateful to pageants and all the people I met along the way. It's
Yeah.
Yeah, if you are, a person that are like intrigued by pageants, just try it out, because it's honestly the best.
But I mean, I'm guessing then before you even competed, you were already a very ambitious person, and then pageants just kind of
Yeah.
opened more doors for you.
Yes, and also like it's amazing how you have been able to, like, I got to see so many new countries that
Yes.
I normally would never even have gone to, and
Mhm.
all that mostly for free, because like when you go to a pageant, of course it costs some money to like get your own stuff and like clothes and etc., but you go there for free basically. So get to travel the world.
Well, and that's another thing I think a lot of realize, or the people listening in here that are more familiar with American pageants, with these international pageants, a lot of times, kind of like if you were Miss USA going on to Miss Universe or
Yeah.
Miss Universe Sweden going into Sweden, these international pageants do cover your accommodation. So your
Hmm.
hotel, your food, your entry, etc., is most of the time included. And I think for us, we do have a certain level of like, fortunately, like we're both tall, so there are certain international pageants that have like a height
Hmm.
requirement and things. So, but with that, it's almost like we're working, or I don't want to say we're labor, but we are acting as tourism ambassadors,
Yeah.
spokesmodels for these competitions and organizations.
Yeah, you definitely don't think a pageant is a vacation because it's not. It's a lot
Mhm.
of work, and as we talked about, not much sleep. But it is a
Yeah.
very cool experience and definitely worth, trying out if you haven't done that.
Yes. And then, so sorry, what
Yeah.
I was trying to ask before, did pageants ever change your mindset in any way, or were you always this ambitious and driven and things?
I think I've always been very, very ambitious and driven, but pageants have kind of like, since I got to travel so much, it kind of opened up my eyes for what's out there and all the possibilities that actually exist. So I think
Mm.
that's what pageants have done. And I'm super grateful that I started when I was so young because it really, yeah,
Okay.
like you can probably relate too. Like you've been talking about how much confidence you build thanks to pageants, and I can
Mhm.
definitely relate to that as well.
But I think where we contrast actually is because I remember I started at 8, so it was a
Okay,
little different, but
that's crazy.
I was not ambitious at all. Was extremely shy. I
Yeah.
did not have any goals or dreams that I knew I could do. I think I was just really insecure.
Mm.
And it wasn't until I competed in pageants, like a whole paradigm shifted. And I was like, wow, like I can be pretty. And oh,
Yeah.
like I can be pretty and smart. Like I
Mhm.
didn't know that. And then because of that, like I can do anything I set my mind to. No way. And that still is a journey for me now. And
Yeah.
I'm honestly amazed that you didn't even need to go to a pageant to recognize that. You already knew going in watching a Miss Teen USA video, like, oh, I'm 15 and I'm going to go to Guatemala, like.
I think I've also been like, maybe for my advantage, like I've been a little naive about certain things. Like, oh, of course I'll
Okay.
just do that, and of course it will go well. But sometimes maybe it's good to be a little naive and yeah, not see the negative things. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think it's called now
Yeah.
delusional confidence.
Exactly.
That's what the TikTokers
Yeah.
say
Yeah.
nowadays. So whether you had delusional confidence or, extreme ambition, I think it definitely went in your favor. And I think I need to take a piece of that, and hopefully our listeners too.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
But it is cool that you started with pageants being so incredibly young and yeah, that's very impressive. And I don't think any 8-year-old is super confident or
true.
really knows what they want to do with their life. So, yeah.
But I feel like if I didn't do pageants, I don't think even 16-year-old me would have thought that I could pursue a career in web design or modeling or anything along those lines. Like
Yeah.
pageants really did give me the confidence to say like, "Hey, you can do these things and more." Like there's way more opportunities out there than that you don't even know.
Yeah.
Anything else that I didn't ask you about? And it doesn't have to be pageant related. It could be about us, or if you have a question to me, whatever that you want to add.
I don't know. I feel like we've covered a lot. I hope it was still interesting to listen to. I know we talked a lot about my life, but I really hope I could inspire someone, at least someone, to, go for their wildest dreams. And that's always
Absolutely.
been my main goal. Like my saying has always been, um, there's nothing you can't do once you've decided to do it. And I truly believe that that's possible. And, I won Miss Sweden on my third attempt. It didn't go on my first, and sometimes you just got to keep on trying, whether it's one time or 10
Mm.
times. Like it will happen when it's supposed to happen. That's what I truly believe in.
Agreed, because the way it truly happened for you on the third time was the best Las
Yeah.
Vegas Moni chaperone, like cool experience. I
Yeah.
think you and the timing with everything is so true. And again, your journey through pageants and where you are now is just so beautiful. Like I can't wait to continue seeing you grow and blossom into the next chapter and things.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And I'm so appreciative of our friendship. And I'm so excited to see where you're going next, because I know you've been going through a lot of changes recently. So very excited to watch you go through that as well.
Oh, yeah. I'm even figuring out what's next for me in my life, or at least I'm at that stage. But I'm glad I'm doing this at least, and I'm like tying things that I'm really passionate about and trying to see where I can grow it and where I
Yeah,
can also build my business and build my brand. And so, yeah, and I mean, I guess for you too, like where do you see yourself next, whether it's through Bluma Co. or any other business ventures you're interested in exploring?
that's a good question. I feel like like last year for me, I was pregnant the whole year, and that was, like a lot of focus on growing a baby and becoming a mom and doing a lot of research about, baby stuff. So I
Yeah.
feel like I'm still in the middle of that and trying to figure out my life as a mom while handling a business. Not easy.
Mhm.
But I'm definitely hoping to take Bluma to new, like higher levels. And
Yeah.
maybe Bluma from now, like a year from now, won't even be flowers. Maybe it will be something completely different. You never know. But
Yeah.
I'm just open to see where it goes. And I'm also very excited to watch my husband's career take off this year. So yeah, I'm just going to be supportive of him as well.
I'm excited for the both of you. Future takes you both next. I know it's going to be amazing. All right. Well, thank you. Okay. So I'm just trying to think how I'm going to wrap it, because I've been jokingly saying, like, in the episodes, like, signing off. I am your Miss Ultimate Grand Supreme Watermelon Bubblegum. Like, the way that, like, they do pageant farewells in the US. So I'm like, how do I sign off a guest? Like, ladies and gentlemen, she is, what year was it? 2017?
Yeah.
Miss Universe Sweden 2017, Frida Fornander Garcia.
Thank you so much for having me.